People, Deluded, I'm back again. It's always a pleasure to speak with you guys. Now, I know I do a lot of Arsenal content. I know I speak about a lot of young players, but I love football at all levels. So anything that interests me, I will speak about. Because of my love for Arsenal, I like to look at what other teams are doing. Because I'm a love of football, I like to see what all the Premier League teams are doing. You know, I'm pretty sure I speak for most lovers of the beautiful game when I say things like, yeah, we all have optimism for our team, but then we have optimism on the league. You know, I'm keen to see how, you know, Fabio Silva's just been announced, you know, the young 18-year-old at Wolves. How does that get on? You know, Van der Beek took people by surprise going to Manchester United. I'm keen to see what they do if they're midfield. I'm a big fan of Ferran Torres. He's gone to Man City. What's he going to do? How is Ake going to deal with, I'd say, stepping up to the top level, because he's left Chelsea, been at Bournemouth, solidified himself, and now he's going back. There's several other moves. There'll be several other talking points that I've missed in this vid that I'll speak about, and that we'll see by the time this vid comes out in relation to the market. Now, Chelsea is one thing I want to see. First and foremost, I want to see how they improve defensively, because without taking digs at Chelsea, I'm pretty sure Chelsea fans might agree to a degree where I see a bit of Arsenal in them when we actually could play football. Now, they can put lovely passes together. You're kind of relying on outscoring teams, and it's always a bit shaky defensively. If they sign, I know they've got Thiago Silva. He could be a good short-term signing. He's 35, 36. You know, longevity is not there. They've had one of their worst defensive seasons, and this was a team under Jose that battered the league in terms of keeping clean sheets and things like that. So I'm sure Lampard was in that team. So I'm sure Lampard, he wants to play this lovely football. He's got the players to do it, and they brought in. But defence wins titles. You know, you can't always beat a team 4-3. You know, I'm sure when you look at that Palace game towards the end of last year, Zuma looked good in the highlights with that lovely tackle, and they hung on. But I'm sure Chelsea want to do it a bit more cleaner than that. And just, you know, they're in the Champions League. I'm sure they don't want to get mashed up against Bayern Munich again. I think they need a centre-half, because I look at their centre-half situation. You know, Rudiger is a bit iffy. Christensen, it don't seem like they're rating his thing too tough. Zuma's good, but Zuma looks like he needs a partner that can keep him concentrated, which, if that's Thiago Silva, he can get away with that. If one man gets injured, what do they do? I'll be keen to see what they do there. I'm obviously, you know, so I'm keen to see how they improve defensively. I'm obviously keen to see what they do with their options, because Lampard is an attacking coach. You know, he's got two players that are loosely like him. You heard Havertz talk about, Hervites, forgive me for mispronunciations, him talk about a big reason I wanted to come to Chelsea was on top of what they're doing as a club, Lampard. You know, they're completely different footballers, but there's similarities in them. Lampard was a goal scoring midfielder. He had way more qualities than people give him credit for in terms of just goals, but you know, his highlights, he scored some good finishes. Havertz, Hervites, whatever you want to call him, he can play in a number of roles. He can play sort of an inverted position off that left, like a wide creator sort of thing. He can play as, he's been tried as a false 9. He can play as a support striker. For me, I'd love to see him as an 8. You know, I think he's good there, do his thing there. I think he's got the technical qualities. I think he's got good height. I think as he gets older, he's going to get there a bit physically and become a bit more of an all-rounded player, and be someone that not only contributes to getting goals, but someone that dominates the play of the game, you know, dominates the whole game and the tempo. I really like Havertz. I really think he's got a big potential. You know, he can play in a lot of roles. I'm keen to see what happens. Do you play him and Mount as 8s? Do you get Loftus-Cheek in there? You know, you've got Loftus-Cheek, who, you know, he'd be part of my plans if I was Lampard. You've got Kovacic, probably their midfielder of the season, if not player, give or take, between Pulisic. He's got to be part of it. Kante, you know, he's 29, he might be moved on, but who else can put up? It's a bit like Arsenal. I don't mind Torreira leaving people, but when Torreira goes, who have we? Partey's not the same as Torreira, but he can put a foot in. So if he comes, fair enough. But if we lose Torreira, who puts a foot in? Who's good at that running the ball back stuff? You know, Chelsea lose that. I know they, you know, midfielder, just because they're not that, they can win the ball back, but they're losing that. So you've got Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic, Loftus-Cheek, Havertz, Kante, you know, Jorginho's technically on the wage books. Danny Drinkwater's out of here, but he's on the wage book. I'm pretty sure I'm missing the next man out, people. Chelsea got bare midfielders. Mason Mount as well, who I believe, you know, shouldn't be scared of his place. He should be, in a healthy way, feel threatened, because if I'm him, you know, you and Havertz you and Kai aren't the same player, but you know, if Lampard was to change everything, it might be you or him. So alarm bells would ring. You know, welcome to Chelsea, welcome to competition. You know, I'm keen to see how them young players cope as well, because Tammy, I wouldn't rule out Tammy getting opportunities, because you know he's shown he can be a part of the team. Mount for me has as well. Tomori's been out of the team, and I'm screaming sign a new centre half in terms of Thiago. So right now, it only looks kind of gravy for Reece James to a degree. Callum Hudson-Odoi, assuming they don't bring in another winger. Pulisic is doing his thing as well. And assuming they don't use some of the midfielders they've signed, i.e. Kai, out wide. You know, Werner could be used in a sort of wide forward sort of role as well to a degree, which could get Tammy or Giroud in the team. You know, over a course of the season, I do think Chelsea have to clip a couple of those midfielders, but you need balance. The first thing people will say is who plays, and that's a legit question. But Lampard needs these issues. Who plays? The team that does the best on the match day. If you're put out there on match day 1, don't lose your shirt, and you will never have nothing to worry about. Every training, put yourself in there. Chelsea need depth. Chelsea need options. There might be some games it might be best to go with a 2 of Giroud and Tammy, you know, and have Werner even in the side on like a loose 4-4-2 and have Werner off the left. There might be a game you Werner through the middle, Giroud on the bench, Tammy not involved. There's many different things, you know. It might be 1 striker, 2 strikers, you know. I'm keen to see who gets football, man, because you know Giroud's gonna be there for another year. I rate Giroud's attitude. He said, "I'm not worried about Werner. He's a different sort of striker to man, and you know Giroud's never been scared to fight for his place. To be fair, Tammy might feel hard done by, and I don't know if he signed a new deal yet. But was there not talks of that, Chelsea fans? So educate me on that, cause I don't really know. So we're keen to see that. I'm keen to really see what happens. But if I was a Chelsea fan, you know, they've brought in Chilwell. Say what you want. That's an upgrade on Emerson and Alonso. I'd still want a centre-half. I'm trying to stay away from the goalie thing, because the goalie thing's a bit booky as well. I know they've got Reece James at full-back as well. Maybe Chelsea fans will say they need a backup full-back. I don't know what they're on. But I'm keen to see what happens, man. I mean, just by listening to Havertz speak, he said, of course, he had a big impact on my decision because I loved him as a player and I watched him very often, and I think I can learn from him now he is the manager as well. I think he's a very humble person and a great guy, and I can't wait to play with him and learn from him. Oh, sorry, people. This is him talking. I don't know who he's talking about here. I've gone off topic. I think he's talking about Werner. I'm not going to bore you, but he basically spoke about playing with Werner and Rudiger and things like that. And I was reading an article on Goal People, and one interesting thing about him as well is he scored 18 goals last season, and I'm not one for stats, but he outperformed, long story short, his expected goals tally, which, as Goal perfectly put it, he scores from a number of difficult chances. Now, you know, playing for Chelsea, with all due respect to Leverkusen, they are one of the bigger teams you look out for in the Bundesliga, but typically the way teams are going to set up against Chelsea, because they're 9 times out of 10 the bigger team in the fixture anyways, because of how Lampard wants to play in their attacking options. More time it's going to be 2 banks of 4. So on top of everything else he's going to have to adapt to in English football, his expected goals might change, and you know, according to the roles, his goals might change. But I'm keen to see. It went on to also say he also had a shot conversion rate of 20.3% in Bundesliga. None of Chelsea's current wide attackers can claim to have such productive campaigns. Pulisic scored 9 goals with 14.3% of his shots, and I think Pulisic's going to have a big season. And I think him and Pepe, I think both of their similarities. There's similarities in their situations, but it's different. I feel both of them were at the team by their managers, and when they've been put in, especially Pulisic, because he's scoring decisive goals, they don't want to lose their spot, and that's what you want to see, man. Craig Burley, now I'm not one to agree with ESPN pundits and things, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree, but you know, I like to, if somebody's saying a point, regardless of if I like them or not saying I have any beef with Burley because it's irrelevant to me, I like to mention it, and I feel he said something interesting, a bit funny but interesting. He said, Thiago Silva is going to need an oxygen mask because there is only N'Golo Kante in there who's got any defensive qualities. And I also forgot to say, apparently Bakayoko is on his way out of Chelsea, so they're getting a bit of bob through that. That's going to be the difficulty for Lampard, striking the balance. Mason Mount, who flourished in his first season in the Premier League, is an attacking player. Kai Havertz played a lot of the season at Leverkusen as a striker. Then you add the front three, Werner, Ziyech and Pulisic, and it's over to you, N'Golo Kante, because nobody is going to be defending. Striking a balance with Kovacic or someone else in there is going to be key. Chelsea had one of the worst seasons defensively last year. they lost a heck of a lot of goals. So Lampard knows that he needs to make sure he solidifies his back line, which was a problem for them. And, you know, the best form of defence is to attack. You know, it is a way of defending. And that's what I have Chelsea down. But I'm pretty sure Lampard and Chelsea fans know you can't always do that. So I do think they need defensive reinforcements. And I am keen to see what they do with the situation of Kante, because in terms of his age and that sort of profile, he probably is one to be moved on. In terms of his specialist role in the midfield, you know, I don't know if there's ways to combat that, or there's other men they can bring in to do that. I don't know Chelsea's plans, or their fans know that more than me. But if they're going to lose his skill set, is Lampard saying for this season we're just going to outscore teams? Which you can do that, but there's going to be times it's not going to bang. So we'll have to see. Giroud as well, it's a bit different, but Giroud, I just thought I'd mention it since I've mentioned it. Olivier Giroud is confident he can play a role in Chelsea's bid to win the league next season, despite Werner's arrival. As you know, the French striker scored 8 goals in 18 appearances, only 12 of which he started in the top 5 last season for Lampard's men. Apparently his contract will expire at the end of next season, and obviously in terms of playing time, you know, even if you're not a striker, even if the incoming players are not strikers, indirectly it could affect you, because Lampard might have thought, if I don't get Kai and I don't get Werner, you know, it might be Giroud and Tammy, or the next man I might go with 2 up front. You know, now that's not there, you've got other players. And to be fair, strikers are the ones that should be scoring goals. But when I look at this Chelsea team, and I think in theory, you know, Mount's shown he can chip in. Loftus-Cheek, if fit, I think he might not be a consistent goal scorer, but can provoke them situations there. Kai Havertz, I think he can do that, you know. Ziyech, I know he can play as a 10, but he can also play on the flanks. If these sort of men are contributing, you know, if a man's getting 10 goals a season here, or 5 goals, or you know what I mean, people, you know, if they're all chipping in goals like that, then there's kind of a less need, not saying they won't be used, but there's kind of a less need to be dependent on these strikers or for game times, you get? So Lampard looks like he's got a fetish for midfielders, innit? If he can play 11 midfielders, he would. So it might be gazy for the strikers. But I like Giroud's intent. He said, I haven't spoken to Lampard. One thing is certain, the competition in the club will pull us all to the top. A great club should have different options in each position. We want to be in the race for the title, and I'm here. I finished the season well, and I proved to the manager that he can count on me. Werner is not the same profile as me. I hope to have some playing time. And, you know, it's good problems. It's good problems for Lampard. You know, 6 months down the line, things need to be revisited. There's still question marks over centre-half and, I guess, in goal based on Kepa's performances relative to price tag. But I'm keen to see what Chelsea are on, man, because Kai is one of my favourite players. It's a shame that he plays for our rivals, and I'm going to have to support him on the low and kind of run a little agenda to my man them about him. But I'm keen to see what Chelsea are on, man. Like, I'm keen to see what all the other Premier League teams are on. Hopefully, you know, if I had my way, Arsenal be winning the Premier League and all of this, we'd probably be winning F1 as well. But that's not how reality works, man. I've got nothing more to add, man. So people, please make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you like this vid, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So make sure you leave a comment. If you're bored of this video, or this video is done and you're bored and looking for more content, then you know I've got you. There's videos galore, you know. Make sure you check out my podcast. Make sure you check out the blogs. Make sure you're following me across all socials. Links are in the description, better yet. Most importantly, please stay safe, and we soon buck up again. But for now, people, DG, I'm out.